Oh, wow. It says we're live. I love this internet stuff. It's amazing. So I guess I'll have to introduce myself. Yeah. Okay. So, hey, I'm Louis Porter Jr., and this is not really Transparency Agenda.
It's amazing.
It's more evening.
Okay. So, hey, I'm Louis.
That's about it. Oh yeah, I should introduce everybody who's here. Let me introduce all the people here. Let's start. Well, introduce yourselves. You're big boys. You know what you're doing.
I'm Mike McCarthy. I am the author of the Wrath of the Gatekeepers adventure serial, and also of the previous one, the Crisis of the Gatekeepers. It was right. Chronicles of the Gatekeepers. I keep mixing that up. Chronicles of the Gatekeepers. It was Crisis of the World Leader.
That's right. See, there you go.
Yeah.
Loki, introduce yourself.
I'm a New Orleans-based game designer. I actually only had a minor part in the project since I'm well known across the internet as a massive Spelljammer geek. He approached me to work on designing Caliph Pathfinder, which was a lot of fun because everything in my background was not Creole, French, and Scots. A lot on Scots flavor text. So it was a lot of fun building it. I've actually used it in my home game several times.
Cutting out for a second. Let me get this bandwidth. All right. No, not limit bandwidth. Cool. All right. And do you have fun to introduce yourself? I'm pretty sure everybody knows who you are by now.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm Jeff Lee, and I'm doing a lot of the grunt work for the project. However, the big bad, Cyrix, is my baby. So he will be killing you.
That is right. That's, I totally forgot about that. I said, hey, I have a crazy idea. Do you want to work on this? And just said, sure.
Well, they only kill Cyrix like 4 or 5 times in this campaign. So, you don't know if he's gone for good.
He's never gone for good. That's the great thing about it. He just comes back as something worse.
Look, I've been a big fan of that. I've always said from day one, I want you to have a villain that keeps repeating. But there's no real purpose to have a villain to one shot. You fight one time, and you never see again. What's the big point? You should grow with your villain. The better you get, the better the villain gets.
We've seen Darkseid in DC.
A great villain.
Yeah.
All right, let me put this link up just in case that people don't know about this. For some reason, I don't know who'd not know by now, which is funny. That we're doing a Kickstarter. It accidentally went up much earlier than I ever planned. Last Saturday morning, I wasn't really paying attention. I've been having a lot of sleep, so I put it up a week early. That was not the initial plan, but it happens. These things happen. So our fans have been supporting us. That's what's important. And I think that more people will enjoy this. So let's ask the important question. So, Mr. McCarthy, since you worked on the actual original Chronicles, and this is kind of your sequel to your thing, tell us give us the short write-up on Chronicles, and then what's different about this, and what's cool, and why should people be playing more of this?
Well, Chronicles is about. It was designed as a way to get new players into Neo Exodus, and that was it's sort of its big purpose for existing. But even though all of the Delta adventures, the side quests, the ones that happen in the middle, are all on Exodus, the end of the campaign happens on Atlantis, which is this giant floating city on Earth from Earth. I think it's actually on Earth during the first adventure, but they come to Atlantis, and there's been this intergalactic war going on in the background. And the Vespens, who are these insectoid servants of Atlantis, have been out fighting this war. And they came back to Atlantis and said, we need more help. And so Atlantis is gathering warriors and mad scientists and so on from across the multiverse. And one of them happens to include a necromancer who the party chases down eventually to Atlantis, and then they blow a big hole in the side. And that's the end of the first campaign. As Atlantis is sinking, Atlantis teleports to Exodus, as is one of the many sort of ways to continue the campaign. And it was always one of the sort of the things I had planned on being the core finale of the campaign, like what's the canon ending of the campaign. So this adventure picks off right where that leaves off. The campaign, Atlantis is crashed on Neo Exodus, and now the Vespins are, they're scattered all over, but somebody else has been trying to take over control of Atlantis. And there's a lot more weird stuff going on in Atlantis in this adventure. And one of the big shticks that's going on through the whole campaign is the party is playing in two places at one time. The very introduction of the adventure, or of the campaign, starts off with two entirely separate groups of two entirely separate parties, and the players are playing both of them at the same time. But then, as the campaign goes on, they're acting in two planes at the same time. Mostly, they're working in this great, gigantic mindscape, which is from Occult Adventures, and Occult Adventures has got a lot of traction since it came out, especially the Kineticist, I think it is, the one who uses like the Dragon Ball Z style key powers. But of everything in Ultimate, or of Occult Adventures, the Mindscapes has been one of my real cool things, because it really grabbed me. And so all of Atlantis has got this gigantic mindscape across it. So everywhere has got this 2 layers of reality, and the party's got to jump back and forth between the 2 of them, and to mostly to have fights with some of the villains, but also in the last dungeon, which I'm currently just finishing up, to solve this big maze and puzzle that they've got to get through to get to the very end of the campaign.
That sounds like you've been busy.
Pardon?
That sounds like you've been busy working.
Well, I have been busy, but mostly lately I've been busy moving. I've only just barely gotten back into the writing after like 2 weeks off.
Did someone give you a vacation? You got to get some time off. Did I approve that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got the paper right here.
That is a lie. I am sure that I did not write that.
Well, that's just a random receipt I had nearby. So,
here's some interesting stuff I want to let people know. So, the Calathon, that I've talked about it a lot. But I guess I'll talk about it now again. The reason that I built them is I wanted to do the GIF from Spelljammers, but I didn't think hippos were scary enough. I mean, yes, I know fundamentally hippos are scary, but I needed to up it a little bit. So that's why I said, hey, we should do rhinos. Rhinos are always, I like rhinos. Rhinos are cool. They have a horn and kind of cool, and they're kind of scaly. You don't see a lot of animals like that. And then I'm a big fan of Tundro from the Herculoid, so it kind of matched up, and I'm like, yeah, we should do that. And then I kept saying, well, we got to make it even cooler. So let's add some more arms, because 4 arms are cool. And then I said, let's make them Scottish, because I think Scottish is the exact opposite of when you think of rhino. There's nothing Scottish about a rhino, but you slap a kilt on them, paya, that's where the real power is, the excitement. That's at least what I think. And poor Loki, I said to him, hey, I got this crazy idea. Here's some stuff we wrote a couple years ago. Would you be interested in getting this ready for Pathfinder? And he was insane enough to say, sure, what's the problem? What can go wrong there? And I blame. I'm sorry I did it to you like that.
Oh no, I think a deserved reputation for loving the weird stuff. And as I recall, one of the reasons you reached out to me is I'm a well-known hardcore spelljammer. I still have elements of I have been until I started playing Starfinder. But yeah, I got them, and it was a lot of fun. Not only because it was a chance to do something in the gifts sort of place in the fantasy space system, but upping the ante. But I really loved the Scottish part because everything about not French Creole, the Welsh or Scottish. So that was a lot of fun to work some of that background as well. The design was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the philosophy and the culture it was laid out. I got to have a lot of fun playing with that. I hope people enjoy the mechanics and the races I presented.
Yeah, and I even had to add some more stuff. Oh, wait a minute, Loki, we missed all that. Oh, you know, it's so weird. I think that you're behind, and it's I gotta stop looking at the screens.
I'm in New Orleans. Unfortunately, that means I'm in Louisiana, which means internet is not the most reliable sometimes.
But you do have the best food. I mean,
well, obviously.
Yeah. I went to New Orleans only once. Actually twice. My parents were living there for a couple of years, and I just went down for a business trip. And I always said the best thing I've ever eaten my entire life was a seafood cheesecake.
Oh, crawfish cheesecake. Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was thinking the Hilton downtown, and the place was like right next door to the Hilton. I can't remember the name of the place, but yeah, I was like, even here, seafood cheesecake sounds crazy. So
that's data information anyway. When you come into town at some point, let me know, and I will take you where the good stuff is.
See,
I know every restaurant in this town.
Well, it is New Orleans. It's, food is what their specialty is. So,
Dude, when I'm not building Starfinder stuff for Legendary, I'm a tour guide. I know the city like the back of my hand. I'm also an 8th generation native.
Goodness. All right, now let's get to some other stuff. All right, so the big bad guy in this adventure, I blame Jeff Lee for once again. I think I pitched him a crazy idea because I said I want to do our version of Ultron, and I gave him I think I gave him like 3 sentences, maybe, knowing me.
Yeah.
Was it even 3 sentences?
Paragraph.
Was it actually a paragraph?
Yeah, it was a couple paragraphs, and it was actually pretty detailed and kind of gruesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, the premise is crazy, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess if you were a machine getting destroyed over and over, you might have some resentment to human beings.
Yes.
So I think that worked out very well. And, as bad guys go, I mean, I guess he's our number 2 bad guy.
Yeah. Widowmaker Scarlet, I think, is number 1.
Yeah. Well, that, or, the folding circle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I assumed you meant.
I've got something good for you as far as the folding circle goes, but it's going to take a couple days.
Yeah, that's always one of those ones. I didn't know that was going to turn out as well as it did. I'm so thankful for everybody working on that, because that could have been, because the inspiration for that is another comic book related thing, and it really did a lot better than I thought it would. I was very, very happy how that turned out, and a lot of people loved it. So that's always a nice plus. And I guess I have to blame Steve. Good Lord, that's Steve's last name. Steve Russell for his full line of stuff he did when he did the faces of the Sook. That got me kind of interested in doing, let's do different CRs so people can have NPCs at different CRs and still play them and include them in their home game. All right, so let's talk about something fun and interesting, and I'm surely incredibly controversial. 5e. I'm sorry, 5e. Well, that too, but actually, let's go with Pathfinder 2e first.
Yeah, I think Pathfinder 5e is still a couple of years away.
That's what you say. I don't. So have you all downloaded it yet?
Yeah.
Yes. I even opened the PDF one time, but I just haven't had enough time to actually read it yet.
I made a character.
Oh.
So I've done that for.
I'll be digging into it. A friend picked me up a copy at Gen Con. It's in the mail right now.
So what do you guys think, really? I mean, from what you saw, to me, it looks streamlined. It's like almost too streamlined now. I
really like it. I'm not a big fan of the a la carte class and everything design that Pathfinder's been moving towards. I can see the appeal for some players, but it's not for me. And it really feels like everything in Pathfinder 2 is like that. And I like the design philosophy behind most of the stuff. I like, the way, prestige classes and archetypes and all that have been really merged into everything. I like, how they tweaked race to become ancestry so you can merge more races together without having to create custom races for everything. I like, the way the classes all sounded in the preview blogs, but I'm not a giant fan of the a la carte, and maybe it'll be better in play than it is just looking at it. But everything being a feat is like, I don't know, this is way too much to just remember. No one's going to remember what anyone else can do.
What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I did do a character. However, I rolled up a fighter, or I should say I created a fighter. I didn't roll anything. And so far, the mechanics are looking interesting. I'm looking favorably on the selection of feats they have, with the background feats that they have, so you can add a little extra depth to your character and at the same time get some mechanical bonuses for it. And what I've done is basically just come up with a meat shield because I'm going to run a play test with my partner Kat and her 10 and 8-year-old grandsons, and then see how that runs. And part of that is getting a younger generation in and seeing how the mechanics work for them, whether it's easy for them to pick up on, and we'll see how that goes. What I've read on the resonance points, I think that's the name for them, the way that magic items work now, yeah. I'm a little iffy on, but I'm going to have to wait till the playtest to actually see how it actually works out in game. But I have my reservations about that particular mechanic.
And Loki, have you actually got to sit down and play anything or put your hands on anything yet? Really?
I haven't had a chance to. I've actually been up to my eyeballs recently doing Starfinder work, and the other thing I've been with is a Pathfinder variant that Storm Bunny Studios created called Occult 7. Actually doing a Lillian City book for that right now, so I haven't really had much time to pay attention to it. I've got a copy coming that a friend picked up for me at Gen Con that should be around in the mail, but that's honestly going to be my first chance at really taking a look at the rules.
So here's the tough question, and this is the one I don't want to ask, but I guess I have to ask. What do you guys think the effect on 5e will be with Pathfinder 2e? Will some jump ship? Will some people stick around? Well,
I think it'll be pretty small. I think there'll be I think Pathfinder 2 is mostly going to take from Pathfinder 1 player base, and a big portion of Pathfinder 1 is going to move over. But I think only a small fraction of 5th edition is going to change over because people are happy with 5th edition. And the biggest reason Pathfinder 1 did so well is because people were not happy with 4th edition.
Yeah, I'd have to concur. I think because of Pathfinder Society, a lot of the organized play, of course, is going to shift to 2nd edition. So that's where you're going to get the bulk of your players from.
Do you think there's a way to get actually new players?
Not through the current way they do stuff. I mean, totally honestly, Pathfinder in Pathfinder 2 are not accessible to new players. And I mean, there's not an easy solution to it. Adding a lot more beginner box support or beginner box like products is the first step. But I mean, they released one mediocre beginner box for both Pathfinder and 5th edition 5 years ago, and that's the closest. And and then there's other games that are more geared to newer players who don't want such a heavy rule system. But all the Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder games are really rules heavy. And I mean, they need a totally different strategy than something they're using to, draw new players in.
I think third edition publishers can do that because right now you have Playground Adventures, which is run by Ashley, and she's got a lot of stuff out there that's not only geared for younger players, but also provides some educational stuff in it. I know there was one adventure they had that was based on going into a hive of giant bees, and so you end up learning a lot about the bees' biology, their hive structure, things like that, while playing the game, which is kind of an interesting approach to it. I think that's the way to go is to have a dedicated line for younger players. Would be the way to get new blood in, at least of a younger generation.
I think that would help, but it's just a way to get players started earlier. It's less a way to attract people who've never played the games at all.
Right.
And it's great to be able to get more younger players because younger people are much better to pick up on all these things. But a non-player would never have the slightest idea, have heard about Playground Adventures, as awesome as they are. They're going to go to the bookstore and they're going to see Pathfinder 500-page rule book and 5th edition 300-page rule book, and they're going to say these games are really complicated, and they're going to go play something else, play video games because they're easy.
Okay, what do you think about the whole I'm going to say Eberron coming back and people being able to create products for it for 5e? I know that got me kind of excited. I mean, I thought that was an innovative idea. I didn't think you'd ever be able to create your own 5e Eberron stuff, and now it's available. So as a freelance guy, what do you think about something like that?
I think it's a good thing. It'll be interesting seeing how it shakes out over the long term, but it could be an entry point for some interesting new talent in the industry. It could be an interesting way for those of us who are somewhat more established to make a little additional money, do some more work in 5e, and play with a that I personally quite enjoy. I see it as a positive. It's interesting seeing how the companies are trying their little bits and pieces of attempting crowdsourcing and things like that. You saw that in the first round of Pathfinder being developed, the Open Playquest, and seeing how they take advantage of crowdsourcing adventures that they go prove, I get a cut off at the top. It's a beautiful scenario for them. Interesting to check out. I say 50-50 on how viable it'll end up being over the long haul. My guess.
I mean, I just think about myself, and I started doing stuff for 5e because people were saying, "Oh, you should try it." I knew a lot of people were doing very well with it, and I think that there's a lot of interest. But I don't think I've seen the same interest as when I think back to like 3.5 or with Pathfinder. It kind of is, it's less structured. It's like, yes, here's this thing that you can use to play with our games and go. And I haven't found like the same level of, it's like the people who do 5e, third-party publishing for Pathfinder kind of just naturally understand where everything fits, where they can put their stuff in, where they should be. But like 5e is like, it's open ground. There isn't a like, where's their Green Lane? Where's their Legendary Games? Where's their Dreamscarred Press? I haven't seen that happen really with 5e in comparison.
Well, I think a big part of that is the 5th edition marketplace is really, I don't want to say bad, but like it's really disjointed because the place where everybody wants to publish is the DMs Guild. And the DMs Guild is a terrible place to publish. Like one of the writers I follow, he ran this big Kickstarter, and he raised a couple of $1,000 to make some nice adventures, and then Wizards promptly sued him because he wanted to put it on DM's Guild and put it on and release it to Kickstarter backers, and they said no. If you put it on DM's Guild, you're zero allowed to release it anywhere else, including this. So he had to take it off of the Kickstarter backing and put it just on DM's Guild. And and DM's Guild, I think, takes 50% of your profits or something like that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And I guess for me being an older publisher, I just didn't see the awesomeness to saying, hey, I'm going to give you 50%, plus you get access to whatever I write, and you can use it in your product too. And I mean, that's theoretically how the OGL works, but I don't, I think that WotC would have a different appeal to it than a third-party company would, where someone would just be like, hey, try this out, boom, here you go, or it's available, and like the companies would come talk to you. Like, if I borrow something from Legendary Games, I'll call Jason up and be like, hey, I'm going to use this thing, do you mind? And I want to do this, is this cool? I don't see that happening with 5e. Because
nobody's allowed to get big, because Wizards is going to squish anybody who's too much of a competition.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very weird scenario. But I know people who've been there, who've done very well, that are selling very well on there, and they keep telling me, "Oh, you got to do some more stuff." But I'm just like, I don't see it. It's a one bookshelf RPG Now drive-through built site, so I know how to sell on those kind of sites. But it's very different. I mean, the DM's Guild is very different than any place I've ever sold on anywhere. I find that to be kind of interesting. So I guess, like I said, I guess it's a weird freelancer thing, because I know a lot of freelancers are popping up and doing their own stuff, like you, Mr. McCarthy. I see you doing stuff on RPG Now, dropping stuff. I'm sure Jeff will be doing stuff soon by himself, because God knows you got a million ideas in your head, so they have to come out. And I know Loki, you've gotten that first bug. That's how we get you. The first one's free. And now you become a professional game designer, and you have nothing to do but design games all day long.
Dude, my first book was in 2012, and it was Emmy nominated. Come on. Hardly my first book.
Look, you're addicted. Don't try to fake it now. You're already in. You're already in. It's like a bad relationship. You did the wrong thing. You said, hey, let me just try this out. What's the worst that can happen? Years later.
I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. It's going to be fun.
I'll just say that, I love the business. I think it's a lot of fun. Still, getting art is still my toughest thing that I do. That drives me crazy. But, I having seen the change with 2E, I started looking at companies differently. I'm like, we need to stop worrying about what system they're using and build the IP of the world you're building, because I think that's where the real power is. You build a cool world, you can have it in Savage Worlds, you can have it in Pathfinder, you can have it in D&D. It doesn't matter who plays it and how they play it, as long as they enjoy the environment that they're playing in.
Well, it matters a little, because different systems are better for different things. Like, you wouldn't want to have is it Obsidian Dawn? That wouldn't work really well in No Thank You Evil.
How do you know? That could be the most thing ever. That could be the new big hit. You don't even know. That could be the hotness. Maybe that's our problem. We're closing ourselves in. We got to branch out. No Thank You Evil and No Thank You Evil and Dark Sun. Boom. There you go. Any nominated. Don't even. No need to pay me a percentage. I'm good. No, I'm just seeing that right now. Like, that would be the weirdest game ever.
Lewis, I run a Planescape fiasco game sometime.
See? It's just rules. They're just rules. You make them up. We just have a good time. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. Let's have fun. Enjoy ourselves. All right. Let's ask some important questions, the most important ones. And this is going to be tough, because I know some people are going to, this is how people get shot. Which is better, Star Wars or Star Trek? Go.
I like Star Trek.
Cosign. Definitely cosign. Star Trek all the way. I remember watching the first episodes at the tail end of it as a tiny child on my father's knee.
I like the science in Star Trek, but the lightsaber is kind of a cool weapon. I can't front on that. That's a cool weapon no matter where you go.
Oh yeah, well the lightsaber is way cooler, but Star Trek is, Star Wars is fine, but I haven't watched most of the Star Wars movies.
What?
I've watched 4 or 5 of them, but that's all.
Okay.
The original 3 and 2 of the trilogy, or 2 of the original trilogy, and none of the recent ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I've seen them all, and I still come down Star Trek.
Look, the problem. All right, we won't get to that problem. But recently, Star Trek had that new show on for themselves, and I just saw that new show on Star Trek. I can't remember the name. Discovery. There you go. And I've hated. Hate isn't a strong enough word. I've been very disappointed in this is the direction they went. Because I can't. It doesn't feel like Star Trek to me.
Did you watch the whole season?
No, I couldn't get through it. The weird part to me, it's like the Klingon.
If I may, I really felt the dissonance first 6 episodes, and there's a big shift right in the middle, and it starts to come into focus. And by the time you get to the end, it's like, holy shit, this is dead on Star Trek. And by the end of it, despite slow, unforgivably slow burn, where it does not feel like Trek at all, it ends up being the stuff I've seen them do on screen. Give it a try. Try and get through the season, and we'll sit down and talk about it on a video down the line and compare notes.
I believe that shows need time to develop. I've always believed that. Babylon 5 taught me that one. But there's got to be. I mean, it's Star Trek. We all know the premise. We all know the idea. We don't need to be baby that much. It's like, within 3 episodes, it should be like, boom, here's Trek. If it's not Trek in 3 episodes, that's 3 hours of stuff. That's a lot of time to watch something that's only okay. Especially with a 40-year pedigree.
I think they know that Discovery is on shaky legs at the moment because they just announced they're bringing in Spock. So, something familiar for the fans.
We've known that was coming to the end of the season. At the end of the season, the Enterprise pulls up and Captain Pike hails.
It's so weird because I'm a big fan of DS9. I think DS9 was the best Babylon 5 clone they could ever have done, and they did a good job with it. But that to me, that's a height. That's a height of their quality. And then you get Voyager, which was whatever, and then you get Enterprise that they didn't figure out what the show was till the 4th season. I'm like, what is going on here? This does not make any sense. It was tough to do, and I don't know. It's like for a show that long with that much great science fiction, you'd think it would have been better.
Yeah, there's there's ups and downs in every series, and I think we're all a little colored by nostalgia because I personally loved Voyager, but the Next Generation was of course the best.
What?
I liked it.
The best?
It was completely ridiculous, but it was very Star Trek-y the whole way through. Every episode they went and they found this weird random space thing, and then they solved problems with more, their space diplomacy, and then they left. And that's, the very crystal of what makes Star Trek Star Trek.
I don't know about all that.
When the scripts were good, it was fantastic. There weren't enough really good scripts, unfortunately, which is a damn shame because Kate Mulgrew's Janeway kicks ass top to bottom.
You
Yes.
have been drinking, both of you. Sorry.
Well, I mean, yes, but
These days, I only drink at special events, man. I've become old and boring. Sorry.
I'm sorry. You have a terrorist on board who is the most non-terrorist terrorist I've ever seen.
yes, Chakotay was his backstory was terrible, but
And it shouldn't have been. It could have been awesome. They really wasted him. I'm still mad about that. It's like look, watch DS9, watch how Garrick does it. That's how you do a terrorist.
Well done. I agree.
How difficult is that? I mean, good Lord. That could have been better. Ugh.
How many horrible things in the media landscape can we chalk up to studio interference is also a question. Hey, let's just get something together and get it out to market. People watch it. It's Star Trek.
Yeah, but I always wonder, it's like, how much can you blame the studios? I mean, okay, like Firefly, definitely. We all know that was a mess. That couldn't be saved. I mean, canceled before it even started, so I don't even know what even happened there. But sometimes you see stuff, you're just like, why? How did this end this way? And why? What were they thinking?
Look up the name of the person with script approval.
Well, I mean, Manny Koto wrote for Enterprise. He also wrote for 24, and 24 was a good show almost to the end. But like when Manny left 24 and went on Enterprise, that last season's amazing. They said, "Oh, let's do some Star Trek stories. Let's actually do some stuff that might be cool." And they did so many things that were like, "That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing." And like these guys couldn't figure it out by themselves. I mean, really? Like, I always wonder that. I wonder did someone have to pay somebody for that? Was that like I got to do something. Here's some money. I want to do this kind of scenario, or what's the politics in Hollywood like? Are they like game politics?
no idea.
I gotta wonder. I just have to wonder. All right, let's see. What other evil questions? Marvel or DC? Let's hear that. And we're talking comic books, not movies, because that's not even fair.
I vote Marvel, but I've only read a very small number of comics overall.
Make mine Marvel.
Kicking it old school. I respect that. I don't pay attention to companies so much as I pay attention to writers. So I got to come down with a foot in both camps on that one. You've got Jack Kirby on both sides. You got John Byrne on both sides. You got all sorts of fun people. All the best work. It's all about the writing and the art to me because I love all the characters. Even man, the most ridiculously overpowered circus strongman archetype out there can be done well with good writing. So, like, I'm not choosing on that one. Yes, sir.
I'm against Batman. I've always been against Batman. I don't think Batman makes sense in a world where Superman and Wonder Woman exist. It's like look, when Batman was a detective, I kind of understood that part. I like that part. But when Batman became I'm the world's greatest detective and the world's greatest martial artist and the world's greatest this and the world's greatest, like, dude, how do you exist in a world with no powers and no power armor with Superman? I don't even see that as being valuable. And it's like Batman Beyond makes sense to me. He wears a power suit. It's still Batman, but it's a cool suit, and that can work. But like Batman just with his bare hands, it's like, what are you doing? How do you punch someone like Brainiac without being like, oh, I gotta get out of here. This is dangerous. I'm gonna wind up dead.
He's just a crazy person. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, but crazy people get their bones broken, I'd assume. But he seems to, never have to worry about those things. I mean, the most recent thing, he broke his back with Bane, and then like this issue, Just this month, he broke his arms and his legs in JLA. But like that's the worst I've seen in 70 years of stuff.
Plot armor is powerful. It stops a lot.
Look, I just look. I don't mind if you want to use plot armor. I'm okay with that. But let's
Plot armor.
Oh no, let's put some more power armor on him. Let's put some power armor because that plot armor is amazing. But it's like, dude, I can see through the whole of this one. But let's, get him a suit, get him a power suit. Why not? It works. It could be cool. Batman in a power suit. Who would say, oh, I wouldn't want to see that? Of course you'd want to see that. You got as much money as Iron Man, I'd have a power suit.
And we saw it for a short period when he kicked Superman's butt.
Thank you. Why, that's a perfect good reason to have it. Why would you not have that? I don't know. I've never understood that. As much as I don't like Aquaman, I really just never got Batman. Never. Never. It was.
So what do you?
What's that?
I said. So what do you think of Submariner?
I believe that. I can get behind that. I can get behind a guy in Speedos with little wings on his feet, and in my head, let me put it in context. In my head, it's The Rock. It definitely is The Rock. He is Namor. That's how I see Namor. Filipino-esque, Asian-esque, strong guy. I can believe that. I can oh yeah, he's of course, no problem. But Aquaman, blonde hair, blue-eyed. I talk to the fish. I don't have any real water powers. I don't, I'm strong. He did throw a polar bear at somebody as an attack, so I think that's kind of cool. But still, it's just I talk to fishes. He needs a better power. He needs a better power set. And even Jason Momoa playing him, I think, is a great idea. But it's just, I don't see him as a threat.
I think he's solid in the role, but the man needs actual lines to work with. This whole dude bro version of Aquaman really grates on me as one of the worst parts of the movie. And that was an exceptionally bad movie to start off with. Better than most of their recent offerings, but DC's got an overdose of grimdark they need to deal with.
Well, they have a Hollywood studio problem.
That's for sure. They got a director problem as well.
Well, I'm okay. Now, I won't badmouth him totally since he had a death in the family in the middle of it. But the style, we've seen that style before.
It's not my thing. That's all I'll say.
Well, and plus DC heroes are not grim, except for Batman. Batman's a grim guy. The rest are light and happy and friendly and, what you'd want them to be.
Yeah.
But, I don't understand how Warner Brothers, who owns all their characters, can't get their stuff together. And Marvel went into a meeting and said, we're going to do a movie with a talking raccoon who carries machine guns and a tree that only says three things. What was that meeting like? How do you pitch that this is going to work? I know I want $1 million or $20 million for this. This is a great idea. If any of you came to me with that, I would slap you all and say, you're on crack. Please stay away. Don't ask dumb questions like this ever again. But that's, but they did it well. Well enough to get the money, and Guardians was a great movie.
Yeah.
Once again, talking raccoon. They got a bunch of money for a talking raccoon. Ugh. Jeez. Here's a crazy question. This has been going on in my local comic book store. Now, in the comic books, I already know the answer, but in the movie, do you think Captain America could actually lift Thor's hammer? Did you?
I don't think he.
What? Cap's not worthy?
Be able to move it a little bit, but I don't think he could lift it.
Well, Jeff, what's your thought?
I'm going to be cynical, and I'll say that Cap can lift the hammer if the writers need him to do it.
I have to agree completely there.
See, this is what happens when you get writers all together. This is the problem.
You see what?
I don't think anybody would argue that he could, but I think he would not until the writers need him to prove whether he can or not.
You see, what they really need is they need one of those casual background scenes where the hammer's sitting in the room and Stan Lee comes in as the cleanup guy and he just picks the hammer up and vacuums under it and then leaves. That's what they need.
Oh, poor Stan. Poor Stan. Oh, I think he's on his last legs, as it were.
Talk about having a good run.
Well, 95 years isn't bad, and making characters that people will remember forever is, I guess, a kind of cool concept.
Interesting guy. I actually got an interview with him about, going on 10, 12 years ago now when I was doing press work at Comic-Con, and just great old guy, a little bit scattered, but sweetheart of a character.
Yeah, and in your 80s, I'll let that slide. You're 80. A lot of things happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm surprised I could pull off the interview.
Here's a tough game design question here. Here's something that you guys will appreciate. What's the one thing that you created that was absolute garbage? I mean, straight out that you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Yeah, you get to go first. You're laughing, and I know you already know what yours is.
Well, I hate to say this, Lewis, but it was one of yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, the Anointed Guardian.
Oh.
I tried my best. I really did, but I was at the bottom of the barrel right there. And I knew it, but I took the job and I pushed through. It's still got, I think, 2 stars, 2.5 stars from Zeitgeist, but even a mediocre review from Zeitgeist is scathing. It was hard to read. That was awful. That was
He's detail oriented.
Well, we've all gotten bad reviews. I mean, I'm used to that by now. I think it's a badge of honor. So it's like, hey, What about you, Loki? What's been the one that you were like, oh, Jesus Lord, what was I thinking?
Oh, there was I had gotten pulled in to do some fast turnaround design work. It was actually some of the first work I did for Savage Mojo before I did the Lich Queen stuff for them. And it was a fast turnaround on these little short freebie adventures. And, oh, man. Got to be the worst traps I've ever built. And PCs and such. I was looking at it recently. It's like I would barely use this at my. This is horrible. Fortunately, a little freebie giveaway thing. Most of my other stuff, I've had magnificent developmental. Made sure nothing awful gets to the page. But those are still out there, and they're the freebie prequel to the big book that I'm really proud of. So, people find them on a regular basis. I believe that was my first taste of Zeitgeist is this is not good sort of mode.
Oh, and Mr. McCarthy, what about you?
I don't know. I've had a bit of I've had some good stuff. I've done some kind of spotty stuff in the past. Hard to pick one as like a really bad, but one thing that just did not turn out is this adventure I wrote years and years ago now, To Catch a Serpent. And the biggest thing is I tried to make this like city with under a dungeon crawl, and I added a whole bunch of monsters, and then I had to like cut the word count in half because I realized I wasn't so far over word count. I had some disagreement with one of the editors, and the editor said, no, your stat blocks count towards your word count. And I'm like, oh man, that I am super way over word count. So I cut down everything, and it was this kind of this disjointed mess where everything is kind of there, but I would have done better to cut half the adventure rather than try to squeeze everything that I had left in.
Oof. I think everybody knows, my favorite one, by Book on Dogs. Say what you like, that was a low point. That was truly a low point. Oh God. But I've done a book on dogs. It can't get any worse than that, so it's only up from there. Only up from there. All right. It is. We've almost been on for an hour. I'm gonna let you all go because it's late at night, but I want to thank you for everybody coming to this lovely release party. We're gonna put this video, of course, up at our Kickstarter so people can watch it and see what we're like, in normal settings. Everything's going well. The Kickstarter, we're still, we're about almost up to 50%. I'm sure we'll easily reach our goal, but I'd like to, of course, get more because we have a lot of stuff planned. I mean, additionally, we're going to be doing side truck adventures that Mr. McCarthy will be working on. There's going to be a 5e version that's going to be converted by Mark Hart. There's also some other little things we're going to add to the playability of the adventures and just adding to the coolness factor. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. Jeff, Loki, Mr. McCarthy, and his lovely new home, enjoying himself. Thank you all so much for coming out. I do appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. And we will talk to you probably in a couple weeks, if not Monday, when I do my another show when I'm walking out in the streets. Thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep.
And I will talk to you all probably Monday. Yeah, that sounds good. Monday. Talk to you later.